another iceberg video. Is this all my channel will be remembered for? Is there a point in doing anything different when it constantly fails? Is there even a point in doing something I'm passionate for when it isn't a PSA or an iceberg video? No. Well, fuck it. Here's another iceberg video, and today I am talking about the Concerned Children's Advertisers Iceberg. If you don't know who they are, they're a Canadian company which actually made public service announcements between the 90s to the 2000s. And their PSAs covered many different topics. Some of these PSAs were only seen in Canada, but some of them were also seen in the US. And with that out of the way, let's cover the Concerned Children's Advertisers Iceberg. Tier 1. Unconcerned. Health Rock. A 2004 PSA where we see an animation playing on a man's shirt whilst we hear a song about body electricity. The PSA encourages the viewer to eat smart and move more, obviously encouraging people to stay fit and healthy. There were a lot of these types of PSAs around the early 2000s in both the US and Canada, and honestly this song is so catchy it's ridiculous.
Gotta balance food and activity, working together, the body electricity.
Media Monkey. Media Monkey is a 2010 PSA where a girl's looking at different things such as a magazine, computer, and a TV, where a media monkey comes in to not let the girl see certain things. The whole PSA is about not letting the media make your healthy choices for you, as all the things that the media monkey was interrupting were things to do with weight loss and beauty products. I honestly thought that this was about making the right choices of things to watch, instead of it being about how you should make your own health choices. Kinda strange. We Are Girls. This is a 1997 PSA with a few different girls talking to the camera about the things they will do and the things that they won't do. The main example of things that they won't do is things like,
We will not do as we are told. We will not dump our friends just because someone says they're not cool.
So yeah, the whole PSA is basically that girls will do what they want to do and what's right for them. There isn't really much else to say about this PSA. Tier 2. Barely Concerning. Drug Rap. Here we go, the best song of all time.
Drugs, drugs, drugs. Which are good, which are bad. Drugs, drugs, drugs. Ask your mom or ask your dad.
Drink a little water.
For real though, the song is catchy and it's all about asking your parents if certain drugs are safe or not. It's really straightforward since the lyrics literally say, which are good, which are bad. Drugs, drugs, drugs. Ask your mama, ask your dad. Also, from what I know, apparently this aired in the US as well as airing in Canada. Bundle Up. A PSA from the year 2000s where a group of boys are together as a mother comes up and puts a jacket on her son as the other boys laugh. The PSA ends with the tagline, boys. It's not easy being one. What is this PSA meant to say? It's not easy being a boy because you forget your jacket and have to have your mother come bring it to you whilst you're out? I don't understand this one. Ice Cream. Ice Cream is a 2001 PSA where a group of kids are running after an ice cream truck since they obviously want an ice cream. The kids give up chasing after the ice cream truck as it drives away and the kids all run out of breath. Every time I think about or even watch this PSA, I always think of this old banger clip from the small YouTube channel Wazzabang.
Sorry kids, better luck next time!
House Hippo. House Hippo is a 1999 PSA where we follow what's meant to be a house hippo as the narrator talks about the hippo. They talk about how they live their lives, and the PSA ends with the second narrator saying that the house hippo looked real, didn't it? And tells the viewer to question what they see on TV. A lot of kids really didn't understand the end of this PSA and actually believed that the house hippo was real, since kids didn't really listen to the end of the PSA or even understand it. Tier 3. Mildly Concerning. Head. A 2006 PSA where a kid takes their head off after their stomach is rumbling because they're hungry for food. The kid has to find his head and eventually finds it in front of the fridge where he uses his head to choose what he eats. No, literally, he uses his head to bite a container and grab it out of the fridge. It's pretty cursed seeing a kid without a head, and I imagine this may have scared some kids. Body. Basically the same as the last PSA, but instead of using his head to get food, he just decides to dance without his head on. As you do. They literally didn't even need to take his head off for this PSA, but they just decided to do it since it's the same kid back again in the same room. All I can say is why. Storytime. Storytime is a 90s PSA where a woman tells a story about a family of raccoons. The baby raccoon finds some berries, but the mother says, careful babies, some berries aren't for raccoons. And the PSA ends with the raccoon eating an apple, where the woman tells the viewer that some things are safe and some things are not, so you should always ask your parents and that you should never take drugs from someone you don't know. But if it's a friend, then it's all good? Blown Away. A 2001 PSA where a kid walks out of a convenience store with a pack of Pokemon cards. The kid seems to have got a good card, which is apparently a Charizard. That's what the wiki says. but as he sees the card, it gets blown away in the wind. The kid tries to chase after it, but eventually runs out of breath as it blows away, and the text "stay fit cause you'll never know" comes up. Pretty straightforward, but damn, this kid was running past Elm Street? Just imagine if the card blew down that street instead. The chase. Another PSA from 2001 about staying fit. Instead of chasing after a Pokemon card, it's running away from girls that want to kiss you. Damn, this kid must think they have cooties or something, but yeah, it's literally the same as the last PSA, but the scenario changed where girls kiss him when he runs out of breath. Tier 4. Definitely concerning. Walk away. A 2002 PSA where a bully is threatening someone, but we find out that he's actually talking to no one as the camera pans out. The narrator comes in to point out how silly bullies look when no one else is around, and it's honestly quite strange the approach of this PSA, but it's iconic. And hey, I've made fun of it in the past anyway.
Get your boogie on. Get your boogie on.
Tell someone. Tell Someone is a 2005 PSA where a shadow is bullying a kid called Timmy, where the bully ends up showing up and eventually fading away after the kid tells their mother about the bully. Is there much else to say about this PSA? What's your thing?
Bugs.
But this is a 1999 PSA where a kid asks what's your thing, where we see a bunch of different kids' hobbies such as playing guitar, skateboarding, and even this kid with sound effects. Also, damn, this magician kid's a menace, just chopping their sister in half and probably leaving her like that. But the PSA just tells the viewer that no one's good at everything, but everyone's good at something. Knock on wood. A PSA from 2000 where a few older kids convince a younger kid to play Ding Dong Ditch. The kid's about to knock at the door when the slogan, "Boy, it's not easy being one," comes up. So this PSA is about peer pressure, or just about the things that boys in particular will peer pressure you into? I really don't know, but it's odd. Rehab. Probably one of my favourite concerned children's advertisers PSAs, and this one's from 1992 where a man's in a rehab centre where he's remembering his childhood, and eventually his brother sees him as they embrace in a hug. A narrator comes in to say,
If you try to stop a friend from using drugs, you may not succeed, but at least you tried.
I always thought that this was his friend, not his brother, but either way, it's still a really effective PSA that can be seen as disturbing, but I honestly think it's more of a realistic approach to this subject matter. Transactions. Transactions is a 1995 PSA where a street musician is singing a song, and they're singing about different choices such as feed your hamster when you're supposed to, or it will die, eat a lot of fries or look good in pants, or do drugs or everything else. A very strange PSA, and it sucks that I could only find this extremely terrible quality version of the PSA. Tier 5. Genuinely concerning. How was your day? A 1995 PSA where a teacher tells her child about how she got to help one of her students, and the student told her that he gets abused by his own mother. So the teacher's talking to their son about it all, and that the student already did the most important thing by just telling someone about it, as it gets worse, as the best thing you can do is tell someone about it. I think this PSA is pretty straightforward, but it's a bit weird to tell your young son about this. Smart as you. Ah, this good old living television. This was released in 1997, and the PSA has a TV talking to the viewer all about the different programs that air on TV, and that kids are smarter than what airs on TV. The TV ends the PSA by encouraging kids to go outside and enjoy nature by going out and playing instead of sitting in front of TV all day. Apparently for some kids, this had the opposite effect where kids agree with the PSA saying that TV is great since the PSA glorifies TV at the start. Labyrinth. This 1991 PSA, not the Jim Henson movie, follows a group of children as they find a discarded syringe and talk to each other about what to do with the syringe. The PSA ends with,
Remember, if you find the needle, tell somebody!
This PSA is quite strange, and goddamn, the music at the start is extremely dated and I love it. Loser. Gotta love an anti-weed PSA. But this one was released in 1995 where a kid's in a car talking to the viewer whilst smoking pot, and talking about a kid that's apparently a loser as they say that he's into different stuff. But it shows that the other kid seems to be enjoying life whilst he's just sitting in a car smoking pot, and the question, can you spot the losers, comes up as the narrator says that there are many other things that are more fun to do than just sitting around smoking pot. Words Hurt. Words Hurt's 2003 PSA where a girl goes out to drink at a water fountain where a group of girls make fun of her. As they say things about her, words literally come out of their mouths and start hitting the girl and throwing her around. God damn, the first time I saw this, I really didn't expect any of that to happen, but I guess they got their point across to the viewer. Tier 6. Upsettingly concerning. Mimic. A PSA released in 1990 where a girl pretends to drink coffee and smoke cigarettes, literally imitating actions that we see an older woman do on screen. I get the point of the PSA where kids are going to imitate your actions, but I think it's a little bit over the top, as what kid imitates their actions of their parents whilst playing with dolls? Like, they might, but who does to this extent? Choose. Choose is a 1995 PSA where people talk to the viewer about the choices you can make in life, such as choosing to be a friend, choosing to dream, etc. That's literally what the PSA is about. It's just about choosing to make your own decisions in life and not letting anyone make your decisions for you. Pratique. A 1998 PSA where two girls walk into a store as an attractive woman walks out of the store. When they walk in to try and look like that girl that walked out, they realize that the point of these places is to intentionally change how you look and who you should be, as the two girls don't change, and one of them says,
Why let someone else decide who you should be?
It does get quite disturbing in the middle of this PSA, and I honestly think that kids wouldn't have understood this PSA at all because it's just quite vague. The Trap. Another one of my favourites. This 1993 PSA follows two puppet rats as they find a block of cheese on a mouse trap, as the other rat stops the other one from touching the cheese. The rat tells the other one that they should be careful and that they should ask someone before touching things that you aren't sure about, such as asking your parents. It's a light-hearted PSA, and I think it's great. Don't put it in your mouth. Don't put it in your mouth is a 1992 PSA where puppets sing a song about not putting things in your mouth after one of the puppets tries to eat a few different things, such as a guitar. The puppets in the PSA look quite cursed, especially with a few different facial expressions they end up pulling, but there isn't much else to say. Tier 7. Absolutely concerning. Another 1993 PSA. And this one shows two kids as they're in an alleyway with a drug pusher as he tries to offer the two kids some drugs. The kids think about the pusher's offer and then they decide not to, and as they walk away, the pusher takes off his sunnies to see his hideous eyes. Speaking about the pusher, I have an exclusive design of the pusher on my merch store over at zakar.store, so remember to check it out at the end if you're interested. Besides that, the PSA is mainly remembered for the end. Syringe. A PSA from 1990 where a rat's wandering around Toronto streets as we see a needle getting liquid from the road and then injects it into someone. After that, the needle gets tossed up and smashes on the floor as the PSA ends with,
So if you're afraid of what's been done to them, wait till you see what they do to you.
Oh damn, this is quite disturbing for a concerned children's advertisers PSA. This is like a partnership for a Drug Free America standards, and it's quite interesting because of that. Mo Funky. Mo Funky is a 1996 PSA where we hear kids saying one potato, two potato, etc. as we see different things such as a spinning bottle, a coin flip, pulling straws, until a kid says this at the end of the PSA.
When it comes to important decisions, don't play games. Use your head instead.
Ah, so this is about not making choices by chance, but instead just making smart choices? To be honest, this PSA is extremely trippy and I had no idea what was going on until the end of the PSA. Lisa. One PSA in a series of 4 PSAs released in 1990, where the speakers all tell their stories about how they became drug addicts. They also talk about how they're hurting their friends and family because of their drug abuse, but the only one I could actually find is this Lisa PSA. The others are apparently called Cynthia, Doug,
Hello, I'm a nostalgia critic.
and Steve. Crack. Crack is another PSA from 1990 where it's a very short PSA with a woman saying,
Ever wonder what a bag of crack looks like?
as a body bag gets wheeled in front of the camera in a jump scare style fashion. It's an extremely short PSA, but the PSA ends with the narrator talking about how,
In the last 2 years, over 5,000 people in Canada and the US have died from using crack or cocaine.
brain. Yet another PSA from 1990, but in this one we see a brain that's made up of a bunch of different wires, as a narrator, which is the same narrator as the crack PSA, talks about how your brain is a marvel of technology. Then throughout the PSA, some cutters come in and cut wires attached to the brain to symbolize what drugs do your brain, as the narrator is explaining it all to the viewer. The PSA ends with the brain being a mess as the narrator says,
Your brain just won't be the same.
damn, they really fried their brain, didn't they? Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a like. If you enjoy my content, please make sure to subscribe. It really does help me out a lot. And check out my merch store. I've got designs like this and many others on my merch store as well. But anyways, let's just get into the shoutouts. Massive thanks to Diamond Pony, Madeline Stringer, Ash Crimson, and Miranda S for signing up to my pirate tier. Massive thanks to Elliot, Angie Patterson, and Juliet Wakefield for signing up to my $5 pusher tier. Massive thanks to Sam M1994 for signing up to my $10 Pee Wee Herman tier. And lastly, a huge thanks to Fatima for signing up to my $25 Top Chef tier. If you want to find out how you can get your name at the end of my videos, make sure to click the little Patreon link in the description, or check out the YouTube memberships by clicking the join button next to the subscribe button. Anyways, I'll catch you on the next video.